It's Lenny and Belisi here. We're talking about Unit 9, which introduces you to what the book calls contract verbs. But contract verbs are just a class of verbs that are derived from nouns or adjectives, what linguists call denominative verbs. A denominative verb is a verb derived from a noun or an adjective, as it says on Belisi's chalkboard. And examples of denominative verbs in English, there are tons of them, and different ways of making them. For example, you can take a lot of nouns in English, like computer, and add ize to it, and you make it into a verb. So there's computer, computerize. Or another one is ify, ify, clarify from clear. Is another example that comes by way of French. An older one is how you make a noun out of a verb out of the noun friend. And the old way of doing that was befriend. So there are a whole set of processes for doing this, things like that in English, and there are about a bunch of them in Greek. What we're about to learn in the next 2 units is the way it works for the 3 sets of nouns or adjectives that are common in Greek. First and second declension nouns and adjectives. Then we're going to start with verbs derived from the class of nouns that are in the first declension, that is, the ones that you learned that are nouns of the techne or the thalata type. So the first noun, the exemplary noun that we learned, is the noun time, which has a long iota too, as well as an eta, and it means honor or prestige, big concept for Greeks. And so here you see the simple way of making a verb out of that in English is there's the noun honor and the verb to honor someone, just like you can do that with friend on Facebook. Friend, I am your friend, but I want to friend you. Okay? So when you make the noun out of time, it uses the older form of the noun, that is before the alpha changed into an eta, and so you get timao. That's the form that you see in the vocabulary, but it's not the actual form that you'll actually see in a text. The reason that the vocabulary spells out timao is because in order to understand what the inflection of it is, you need to see the first person singular and to lay bare the ending, the alpha ending, or that can be an epsilon or an omicron, as we're going to learn, that the omega actually contracts with. Contracts meaning when 2 vowels that are not diphthongs become 1 vowel. So the actual form that you see is not timao, but timo, the circumflex over the omega. Maybe you can see why I have a circumflex, because remember in the circumflex the pitch rises and falls. Okay, rises and, what is it? Myself and going backwards. But anyway, it rises and falls, and so there was an acute on the alpha when it coalesced with the omega, on which the pitch fell, right? Remember the pitch falls on the syllable after the omega. You get a rising and a falling tone on the combination. So alpha plus omega gives you omega with the circumflex. So the book will give you on page 232, if you want to look at it, how to get from the inflected forms, which were originally timao, timaes, timae, timaomen, timaeta, timaose, by a set of contract rules, and puts them on the page, top of page 232, and it's a nightmare to learn and look at, okay? There's a very simple principle that's operative here, and here's what it is. The basic structure of the Greek verb is you have a stem, a thematic vowel, and an ending. Okay, and you'll remember how this works. Remember, you can see the thematic vowel in Greek forms most clearly in the imperfect, where you have an alternation for the persons like this. You want to make a little table, singular and plural, first, second, and third persons. And it goes like this. In the first person, the thematic vowel is O. The second person, it's E. And the third person, it's E again, in the singular. And the plural, the first person is O, the second one is E, and the third one is O. Okay, so it's O-E-E, O-E-O. What happens with these alpha contract verbs is, you can make maybe a parallel table to that one. In the alpha contract verbs, instead of having alternation between omicron and epsilon, you have an alternation between omega and long alpha. So we have omega in omicron rather in regular verbs, you have an omega, and then in the second person you have a long alpha, in the third person you also have a long alpha. And the plural, that is just the same way. Omega, long alpha, and omega again, okay? So maybe replace the, there you go. Long alpha plural and the alpha contract singulars. So it's true that where you in addition to having the long alpha, you're going to have an iota subscript, okay, in some of these forms, where you have an iota in the second and the third person singular, because the iota has to be part of the equation. That is, you originally had a long alpha followed by an iota. So in the second and the third person singular, you're going to have alpha, long alpha with an iota subscript, okay, in the present forms. But the general rule, that's just for the present forms where the ending features this EI form, okay. It's better to kind of remove that iota from the actual listing of the whole sequence. But that's the key. You could sum it up by saying E over O, why don't you put that up there, E slash O transforms into, so it's like an arrow, long alpha over omega, okay? And that's the heart of the matter. So, and that's the best way to learn these forms. And when it comes to the imperfect, if you think about L1, LOS, LOE, you're going to have etimon, etimas, etima. When you have Elomen, Elota, Eluan in the third person plural, you're going to have the same alternation between long alpha and, so it will become in the plural etimomen, etimate, etimon. Okay? I think it simplifies the whole process to understand this. So that's the key thing. That's the end of our first video.